Yesterday at 4:25 p.m., an explosion echoed across the industrial outskirts of Mariupol. Initial reports described a strike on a logistics hub, yet this proved to be a dramatic understatement. Ukrainian intelligence soon revealed the actual target, the keystone of a covert $5 billion supply corridor linking China and Russia. This network, analysts say, was designed to sustain Moscow's war efforts amid tightening Western sanctions. Preliminary reports indicate the strike hit the core of a logistics corridor originating in China's industrial hubs. The route reportedly wound from China through Kazakhstan and Russia's Volga region, before ending in occupied Ukrainian territory. On the surface, the system appeared benign, disguised as commercial trade, energy transit, and similar civilian operations. But Ukrainian intelligence asserts it was moving critical dual-use items, precision machinery, electronics, and missile parts, all mislabeled as simple agricultural or mining equipment. It was a high-stakes operation. Sources suggest that from the beginning, the network's exposure was a significant risk, one that factions within Beijing had reportedly warned against. For months, analysts at Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate, or GUR, had been piecing together the puzzle. They tracked shipments whose manifests simply didn't add up. Cargo arriving from China via the Alashankou rail crossing, labeled for construction support, was found to contain highly specialized semiconductors, carbon composites, and aeronautical gyroscopes. These were far from ordinary parts. Investigators soon realized the components exactly matched debris recovered from Russian cruise missiles and drones operating on Ukrainian battlefields. By mid-September, intelligence reports had mapped the operation's alleged structure. At its center, they claim, was a Chinese state-backed conglomerate, Guangzhou Tianhua Industrial, operating publicly as a manufacturing company. This entity was supported by a network of shell companies in Hong Kong, Macau, and Almaty. The financing, according to the leaked documents, was managed through discrete energy barter deals, such as fuel for Russian gold and grain. This system allowed Moscow to bypass the SWIFT blockade and obtain hard currency equivalents. The operation was reportedly about to expand. Documents, which Ukraine claims were obtained via cyber operations targeting a firm in Urumqi, allegedly revealed a new $5 billion stabilization package. Disguised as post-war reconstruction, its true goal was supposedly to secure more advanced microchips and optical sensors for Russia's defense industry. The network's final distribution point was identified in Mariupol's Azovstal district. The former steel plant had been converted into a fortified logistics node, reportedly controlled by Russian military engineers and civilian contractors from the China National Logistics Group, or CNLG. Under the guise of rebuilding, CNLG had transformed the complex into a depot for drone assembly and missile repair. Ukrainian reconnaissance teams observed irregular activity for weeks. Nighttime convoys, escorted rail shipments, and signals from Chinese-made transceivers. Analysts noted increased radio chatter when cargo arrived from Kazakhstan, suggesting high-value material was being processed. When GUR, Ukraine's defense intelligence, confirmed the convoy carried sensitive electronics for Russia's Orlan 30 reconnaissance drones, the strike order was issued. Then, precisely at 4:25 p.m., Ukraine unleashed a coordinated strike. Storm shadows and modified Neptunes roaring across the sky. The missiles struck with surgical precision, triggering secondary blasts that rocked the facility for nearly an hour. Satellite imagery later confirmed the destruction of more than 20 warehouses, numerous transport vehicles, and several underground storage chambers. Intercepted Russian military communications, later released by Kyiv, revealed the immediate fallout. One officer reported that the logistics node was destroyed. Messages on pro-Russian Telegram channels spoke of catastrophic losses at a joint facility under foreign management. This was believed to be a euphemism for the Chinese technicians stationed there. Initial Ukrainian estimates suggested at least 24 Chinese specialists were present, though their status remains unconfirmed, anchoring the geopolitical event in a human tragedy. The incident triggered rapid and complex political reactions. China's foreign ministry issued a cautious statement expressing concern over reports of casualties among Chinese nationals, but flatly denied official involvement in military supply operations. Russian state media were reportedly instructed not to mention the Chinese connection. In sharp contrast, Western intelligence agencies released their own satellite photos, accusing China of providing logistical cover for sanctioned defense components. The explosion also disrupted Russian communications along the southern supply corridor. The GUR seized the opportunity, releasing documents within 24 hours that they claimed exposed the full partnership. The evidence painted a picture of an elaborate state-to-state lifeline, codenamed Operation Silk Shield, a wartime repurposing of Beijing's broader Belt and Road Initiative. The chain reportedly began in Chongqing, supervised by CNLG, a state-owned enterprise with alleged ties to China's Ministry of State Security and the People's Liberation Army. Fragments from the Mariupol site included microcontrollers from a firm, Hangzhou Xinyue Semiconductor, which had been previously flagged by US authorities for exporting dual-use technology. Power modules consistent with those in Shahed-style drones were also reportedly found. GUR cyber units claimed to have infiltrated CNLG's internal communication systems weeks before the strike. This correspondence allegedly revealed the Mariupol hub was just one of 4 major transfer nodes. The system used falsified documentation and transited through companies in neutral countries to maintain plausible deniability. By tracing shipment metadata, Ukrainian analysts located several upcoming convoys. Following the Mariupol strike, special forces conducted smaller strikes in the Melitopol-Berdyansk corridor, destroying additional radar systems and optics, further confirming Chinese language manuals and supply origins. In Beijing, the reaction was reportedly intense. The Foreign Ministry's cautious statement was followed by an emergency session of the Central Foreign Affairs Commission. Leaked internal reports indicated a sharp division. Some policymakers argued for scaling back cooperation to avoid Western confrontation, while military-industrial factions insisted abandoning Russia would destabilize China's own strategic posture. For President Xi Jinping, the strike presented a difficult dilemma. Publicly, China maintained neutrality. Privately, the loss of a multi-billion-dollar operation exposed the fragility of its covert support. The exposure also rattled Beijing's economic strategy. Countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, which had allowed quiet transit, now faced pressure. In a significant move, Kazakhstan's government announced an audit of all cargo at its Dostik and Alashanku checkpoints, halting many Russia-bound shipments. In Moscow, the response was one of panic and anger. The Kremlin launched an internal probe with Russia's Federal Security Service, or FSB, reportedly detaining several logistics coordinators for negligence and information leakage, apparently unaware the breach had come from their partner's digital network. In Beijing, damage control was quiet. China's Ministry of Commerce instructed exporters to reassess risk and temporarily suspended high-precision machinery exports. It was seen by Western observers as a bureaucratic way to pull the plug without admitting fault. Ukrainian officials framed the event as a strategic shift. Defense Minister Rustem Umerov declared, "Every hidden corridor that sustains Russian aggression will be brought to light." The global markets reacted. Shares in Chinese logistics firms, including CNLG, dipped on the Hong Kong exchange. The European Union began drafting new sanctions targeting implicated companies, including Guangzhou Tianhua Industrial. Across the Atlantic, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned that any nation facilitating Russia's war industry will face consequences. Western intelligence later confirmed the strike halted over 40% of Russia's high-grade component imports from this route. This included sensors and chips vital for missiles and drones. For the Kremlin, the timing was terrible, as its forces were already struggling to replenish stocks on the Zaporizhzhia front. For months, Russia had reportedly relied on this shadow supply chain. Western sanctions had severed Moscow from legitimate suppliers, making China's covert routes the backbone of its war economy. The Mariupol strike, therefore, didn't just destroy a depot. Analysts say it collapsed Russia's illusion of self-sufficiency. The psychological shockwaves reverberated deep inside Russia. State-controlled television pundits, who had lauded the Eurasian bloc as sanction-proof, began to voice rare unease. One remarked, "They say China is our ally, but when our logistics burn, Beijing only sends condolences." The Russian military scrambled to reconfigure supply lines, rerouting through Belarus and increasing requests to Iran and North Korea, though these partners offered less reliable and limited alternatives. In Kyiv, the tone was confident. President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the operation as a turning point, while diplomatically avoiding naming China directly. The success was attributed to a hybrid strategy, combining digital espionage, intelligence collaboration with Western partners, and precision strikes. By late October, satellite imagery confirmed reconstruction at the Azovstal complex had ceased. Russian engineers had reportedly abandoned the site. Financial analysts noted a significant trend. Russian-Chinese trade volumes declined for the first time since the invasion began. The yuan's share in Russian cross-border transactions dropped as Chinese banks quietly tightened compliance. The Mariupol strike was ultimately more than a tactical military victory. It represented a strategic success on multiple fronts. Militarily, it crippled a vital logistics artery. Economically, it forced Beijing to reassess the financial risks of its support. Diplomatically, it exposed the depth of China's involvement, placing Beijing in a position it had long sought to avoid. The smoke over Azovstal symbolized the unraveling of a covert partnership, leaving Russia significantly more isolated on the world stage. To understand the complex web of geopolitics, covert operations, and economic warfare shaping this conflict, subscribe for more in-depth analysis. We will continue to monitor the fallout from this operation and its implications for the future of the war.